So you're fascinated with book reading and you often buy books too, but you struggle to stay consistent with reading them. And I relate with that too, because it's always a struggle to finish a book and then start a new one because you're never sure whether the next one is going to be as exciting as the previous one. And sometimes finishing a single book is also kind of a struggle. But recently, I've been insanely consistent with reading books. I mean, previously I did read a lot of books, but recently I'm like finishing a book every week, which is kind of unusual for me because I'm generally not that consistent. And so I wanted to make this video as kind of like the simple tools that help me be consistent with book reading and that could also help you. So I think we've started to expect too much from books. I mean, we expect every book to be life-changing in some way. And while that is true for many books are life-changing, but a lot of them aren't meant to change your life. They might be to add something to your knowledge or to give you a different perspective, and many of them to just for you to have fun and to enjoy them. But even the books that are meant to motivate you and change your life, whatever that means, they don't do that on every page. There are a lot of parts in those books that are not really that special and are not meant to motivate you or bring any important information to you. They're just there, and those are actually necessary too because they are what makes the special parts really special. But those are also the parts when we close those books to never opening them again. So what I'm saying is to dial down those expectations and don't take book reading as like a thing that you're doing a day and thinking of that time as, just make it as a thing that you enjoy in a day and like a thing that you look forward to, but don't think of it all the time. It's not the new thing that you've started, because that puts a lot of pressure on that book. Okay, so this one might not be true for a lot of people, but for the ones who only read non-fiction and those self-help books and think that fiction reading is a waste of time, aka me 6 months ago, just try it. It's a completely new experience of reading a book if you're coming from only reading non-fiction. And in my opinion, many times fiction books impact your life more than non-fiction, and they're fun to read, so just try it. And you can also use fiction books to kind of bring book reading into your daily life, since they're like relatively easy to read every day. Audiobooks. I love audiobooks for a lot of reasons. A few of them are, well, first and the biggest is you can listen to them anywhere. I mean, if you're in a bus or walking somewhere or while working out, in all the situations when you can't read a actual physical book. And another reason, this was actually a reason why I wasn't trying audiobooks in the first place. So you know how sometimes when you're reading a book you kind of zone out and you find yourself in the middle of a paragraph completely lost and you don't remember reading all the previous lines, and I mean, you did read them, but you didn't understand or listen to it. So I was worried of this happening while listening to an audiobook and how it would be hard to find the spot where I zoned out in an audio file. But the thing is, while listening to audiobook, you almost never zone out, or at least it doesn't happen to me. And even if you do zone out, it's not that hard to find the spot. You could just, if you're listening on apps like Audible, they have pretty good options of like going forward and backward in the audio. So I really recommend listening to audiobooks and buying them from Audible. They have a huge collection and the narrations are really good. So another tool that I recommend you is Goodreads. It's a website or an app if you download it on your phone. It's a great tool for finding new books and it recommends you different books, or if you haven't read anything before, it shows you what other people are reading and what books are currently popular. And it has helped me a lot in keeping track of the books that I read, that I've read, and the books that I found interesting. So if I find any book interesting, I could just add it to a want to read list. And it helps when I finish a book, I could see the books that I've previously found interesting and choose one of them and buy them. You can also follow me on Goodreads. The link for that is in description, and you can follow see the books that I'm reading. And so yeah, it's a great tool. Book recommendations. So yeah, it's very stressful when people ask me about to recommend them a book, because first, I don't know their taste in books or what they're interested in. So I'm going to recommend you different books from different categories. And these are only the categories that I've read, that I've been interested in and I've read books from. So if you're interested in business and entrepreneurial books, which was actually how my interest in books started. So I think the best book to recommend is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This was actually my first book, the first book that I ever read. I don't really recommend this book now to people, but I think it's a great book to start reading. He teaches about business and finance, obviously, but he kind of connects everything in a story of his childhood. And it's a great. You can read reviews of this book on Goodreads too to get a better idea of this book. So if you're interested in novels, the first novel that I read was The 40 Rules of Love, and this is still one of the most amazing books that I've ever read. There's just so much wisdom in this book. I really recommend this book. And another book that I recommend is Fangirl. It's the book that I'm currently reading, and it's completely different from the books that I usually read. I usually read some books related to philosophy or self-help books or novels which are related to history. And so yeah, this was new for me, but it's a great book. If you're looking for a book to have a good time with and enjoy reading without getting too much knowledge or motivation of any kind. I did get motivated to write a novel though. So in self-help category, a few books that I recommend are first, Atomic Habits. It's a really good book. I'd recommend at least to look it up on Goodreads and read a few reviews about it. I feel like I'm promoting Goodreads a bit too much. Another book that I recommend in self-help category is Think Like a Monk. This is actually a really good book by Jay Shetty, and it's about monks, obviously. I'm really bad at describing books, I think. It's basically about monks' concepts and philosophies and how we can bring their practices into our lives, and why that is important for everyone to at least be familiar with their concepts. Okay, so I think that's about it. There are a bunch of more books that I want to recommend, but you can just look it up on my Goodreads account, or actually on my website. I'll add the link to that in the description too. So that is it. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful in any way. And if you did, press the like button and subscribe to the channel for future videos. And that is it. Thanks for watching.